Hello, everybody. What a week. It's Friday. Thank you all for joining. For those in London who are in the pub, who are in Discord at the same time, it's kind of bonkers. But cheers to you all, and thank you to the mods in the chat. Thank you as well, Mr. Hammer, for dropping in. And a bottle of red. Haven't seen you in a while. Tonight could be a night for a bottle of red for many. Let's explain why. Bitcoin, yes, it had a rough week, but it's gone up $5,600 in just 42 hours. Let's find out why, what exactly is going on. And yesterday in my video, I did say we have 8 days left of this correction. I was wrong. it didn't even take 8 more days. Let's explain why. So Bitcoin, yes, crazy time. What else? Pension funds are coming in hard. Whales are stacking hard. I mean, totally nailing the dip. Hong Kong, the supposedly nothing burger, which I was always very bullish about because I know how much money is in Hong Kong, it has been a rocket ship itself. And the bull market is alive and well. Let's jump in and why I believe May will be a good month, because there's also a few macro things happening at the same time as well. And shout out to Patreon, who make all this possible every single day. Foggy Moon says, created a Patreon account for the sole purpose of getting more IA Alpha, and it's very worth it. Thank you, Foggy Moon, for being part of the family. Bitcoin Only playlist here. The team will put it on later, for sure. Let's talk about Bitcoin news time. I break these videos into 3 segments. I start with the breaking news. Then I look at all the key charts. And then I look at all the ETF flows as well. And there was some dramatic turnaround as well. As we go, let's first of all, here come the pension funds. Breaking news, Wall Street giant Fidelity says pension funds are beginning to explore Bitcoin and crypto. Gradually, then suddenly. Literally, there is not enough going around. Yesterday, I reported BlackRock talking about sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, family offices, high net worth individuals, all ready to get in right now. But they're being front run. I'll show you by who in a minute. Now, there is another player, Jack Dorsey from Square, comes out with this new Bitcoin blueprint for corporate balance sheets. Their so-called DCA strategy is to invest 10% of profits that they make into Bitcoin. Talk about, and they're a very profitable company as well. Super profitable. And there's more news related to that too coming in a second. But before we go there, let's talk about this. Breaking news. The whales were chomping on fire over the last 48 hours. Doc Intern, good to see you, buddy. This is from Vivek. While you are scared, whales accumulated $3 billion worth of Bitcoin in the last 24 hours. The US ETFs were selling hand over fist for the last 2 days. But the smart money, not the tourists that just came in the past few weeks and then decided to exit the building because this stuff is too risky, it goes down, we don't like that. The real money is stacking hard. And that will make the ETF buyers that sold perhaps buy back. Or maybe they're gone forever. Who knows? We'll see. Now this one, Mr. 100 completely nailed the dip. They bought $260 million in 21 hours. That's 4,340 Bitcoin. They were quiet for 5 days, and then they come in and they buy over $250 million. For the first time ever, Mr. 100 absolutely nailed the dip. But to come in, they normally buy in $100 tranches. They were doing $100 Bitcoin tranches. They were doing 300s, 200s, all over the place. They were just grabbing this stuff hand over fist like we have not seen before. And remember, a lot of people say, oh, it's just a cold wallet for an exchange. It is not. It is not cold wallet behavior. I've said that from the very beginning. I made a whole video about why it's not. Anyway, we'll find out hopefully one day who this is, but they bought a truckload. And Hong Kong is also stacking. ETF Whale Hong Kong fund Yongrong is the biggest ETF holder yet of BlackRock, not their domestic fund. They bought $38 million in IBIT. That's 10% of their US holdings and double the next biggest holder. But what's really crazy about this is the allocations. We have a new high water mark for an allocation to Bitcoin from a big professionally managed fund. And Eric talks about this as well. This high water mark fund from Yongrong, now 38 million. makes up 12% of their reported holdings. And it's interesting, given that, of course, they have their own ETFs now, but they wanted to get on this boat fast. Also, US ETFs have a little lower fee and a little more liquidity than the Hong Kong ones just yet, but do not discount the Hong Kong ones. They have grown to over 5,000 Bitcoin in 3 or 4 days, which is kind of crazy. Now, speaking of the DCA strategy, I think the Square block, Jack Dorsey's shop, is taking a page out of not Michael Saylor's book, but Tether. Tether is now 5% Bitcoin. They have about $115 billion in funds. All their treasury investment returns goes to buying Bitcoin. And the profit per employee in Q1 2024 is $45.2 million. The traditional bankers are paying attention, and they are not happy that Tether, this Wild West crypto, whatever you want to call it, is making so much money. It's ridiculous, but a big part of this is attributed to the allocation to Bitcoin, like Square is going to start doing now as well. By the way, Square still have Bitcoin on their balance sheet too. Now, Elon Musk is chiming in, and I know some people have EDS, Elon derangement syndrome. I personally am a fan, but he did say we need to do something about our national debt or the dollar will be worth nothing. Yes, all fiat melts away to nothing. The US dollar has already lost 99% of its value over the last 70 years and will continue to lose the last 1% pretty quickly as well. It's crazy, and thank you as well to TND, Tesla, and Cage for being here in the chat. And I wonder, is Sean here too? Now, in clown news as well, again, lover or hater, I personally do not like what she's doing, but this is from Pierre Rochard. He speaks about how Bitcoin mining is a strategically important industry from a geopolitical perspective. So does Jason Lowry. He believes there could be world peace if everybody embraced Bitcoin. But even its critics understand and accept this new reality. This is just in. Senator Elizabeth Warren calls on Joe Biden to stop Iran from mining Bitcoin. Imagine hating Bitcoin this much. And imagine saying something so stupid. Do you think for a second you can stop Bitcoin mining? Ugh. Anyway, moving on, off the soapbox. Chart time. Let's go. First of all, this is the monthly candles. And it is, if in doubt, zoom out. See exactly what's going on. Super Soul Man, thank you for coming. May is already on fire with a green candle. That's a little green candle there, but a couple of things to point out from this. We see the double top from the previous cycle. Looking at this chart of the monthly, it looks like it just happened a week ago. No, and we did have that big orange downturn, the bear market. But now, literally, ever since January 2023, we've been going up. Yes, we had the biggest red candle ever, but it also followed a month after the biggest green candle in the history of Bitcoin. And we're going to get another one of those big fatties. Guaranteed. It's coming. Hey, Sean. Now, the point is, we gave back the March gains with the April drawdown. Very simple. But for those of you who like those the hammer candle, we now have a strong hammer. And that is also a very bullish sign. So I do think the old theory of sell in May and go away does not apply this year. And this year, this bull market, everything is different. Now, I've painted the picture that a lot of money is coming in. Okay. Who's selling? Let's check this out. This is from The Hive and Bitcoin Magazine. 74% of all Bitcoin has not moved in the past 6 months. This is very bullish. 74%. Maybe in a month or two we'll get that to 75%. And another proof that this thing is hard, and a very interesting development, we did have some let-us-handers on the ETF side, but not per this on-chain data. It has become a much more stable asset. If you look at this over the past 2 days, this wicked drop of 12%, short-term holders sent very little Bitcoin to exchanges at a loss. That is minimal compared to previous drawdowns in the past. So lettuce hands are becoming slightly less erratic, and it's a sign of a maturing market. And what I mean by slightly less erratic, they don't get as nervous as fast. It's like, yeah, 23.5% drawdown, fine, we're going to bounce back. That's a positive thing to see. And that means more people will hold, making this thing scarcer and harder than ever before. Again, I just showed you how many Bitcoin, like Mr. 100, bought 10x the daily issuance in 22 hours. What happens if another Mr. 100 enters the picture? What happens then, everybody? And that will happen. That is a guarantee. Now, on to one other chart that was super interesting. This is from Willy Woo, and he shows the Bitcoin adoption curve compared to the internet curve. And per this, he believes the planet Earth is at 4.7% Bitcoin adoption. I think that's way too high. I don't think it's that high at all. I think it's somewhere between 1% or thereabouts. But if we do use this comparison and we assume that Bitcoin adoption is at 4.7%, that is like where the internet was in 1999, 25 years ago. Big news. And we'll see where this goes. A couple more charts before we get into the ETF stuff. The Bitcoin bull market is alive and well, per Titan of Crypto. And the bull market's still on. His indicator flipped a buy signal 3 months ago. And it takes 19 months on average before the Bitcoin cycle finds its top. And there were so many out there on Twitter and everybody else calling for a bear market. They thought, and hey Linda, and I spent the last week explaining, no, we're in a bull market. It's a normal drawdown, but people had given up the ghost because they talk about this left shifted cycle and all this crazy stuff. It is alive and well. And I think 2 days ago, I showed 15 charts to say the bottom was in. And then we had the worst ETF dump of all time. But that didn't matter because the whales stacked. And that's what's important. Now, this is an interesting little chart I just came across. And I say it with tongue in cheek, but we have a model called the ATR. And for the first time in 65 years, this puppy popped a buy signal. So you can look, you go back to 1958 or whatever. The trend is up. This is M2 money supply. And literally in 65 years, it popped that little green buy signal, which I've never seen before. But also, we've never seen such a drawdown in M2 money supply growth ever. But the good news is, for the first time in a couple of years, M2 is growing. The money printers were on in a stealthy way, but now we're seeing it flood the system in a direct way too, which is huge. And we all know, I posted this on Patreon last night, about 16, 18 hours ago. Here we go. This is from Thomas, and it's from a famous movie. And the guy says, and here we go. Because when M2 starts to print, Bitcoin starts to rise fast. And we know the economy is cracking in so many ways. We had a labor report today. Freaking disaster, because in 3 months from now, it's going to be revised down 80%. And when Jerome Powell spoke, you could see his body language. He was visibly nervous. He paused for 20 seconds when he was asked about the labor market. And of course, he said everything is fine. It's not. The Fed will cut probably in July, but we'll see. And when that happens, it'll be a here we go part 2 again. So buckle in, everybody. Bull market is alive and well. Now, Bitcoin black hole time, day 78 of these ETF puppies. After the worst day ever on the 1st of May. It's funny, we already have a crazy green candle as we speak, and Bitcoin is at 61,900. The next day, guess what happened? 4 of the 9 ETFs started to buy. ARK, BTCO, BRR, EasyBC, all bought, of course. Nothing for Fidelity and IBIT because they've got these money market things in play. That must be very lucrative. But the total drawdown was only 34 million. And that is a big, big difference from the nearly minus 600 million the day before. Massive change. What this looks like on the macro chart, grayscale is green. Everything kind of went back to zero or slightly positive. Big move. And that's another visual of how bad the day was on May 1st. When I reported, minus 563. Yesterday, only minus 34. Now, we still have 33 billion into the new ETFs, 528,000 Bitcoin. I do want to take a second to talk about Grayscale. They started on January 11th with 621,000 Bitcoin. They have lost 330,000 Bitcoin in 78 days. That is more than anybody ever projected. Shocking. And they made the halving of their bag by the halving, which is also ironic. But the good news about Grayscale, their dump yesterday was the 8th least worst day. People always make fun of me for saying that, but it is actually proper English. And that's not too bad. We're very much above the pink trend line. So we're going to make it. But this thing, it's bleeding out like nothing we've ever seen before. And they still have their fees high because they need approval to reduce their fees and create that mini GBTC. But I don't think that'll even stem the bleeding. But it doesn't matter because we have got bigger buyers now. And one thing I did mention yesterday, and Eric Balchunas said today, which I found very interesting, and I said it yesterday, it's great we have the East now buying Bitcoin. Why? What I said yesterday was that balances the market maker manipulation in the West. So if you have market makers, say, dumping Bitcoin in after hours, the East can snag it. So that puts a lid on that game, which is great for us. So anyway, less manipulation, the better. In terms of yesterday, we had 582 Bitcoin added to the system. Not bad, but when you consider the nearly 4,500 that Mr. 100 bought, it doesn't matter. The ETFs no longer matter. This thing is hard. Money is coming in from all sources, and the pension spigots and the sovereign wealth funds are about to arrive. It's going to be a good summer, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy the show. Hit the like if you do. Again, if you hit the like, it'll show you other content like this, not from me, but from other players that have good content too. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to the mods in the chat. I'll see you later. I'll be talking about some other stuff in about 2 or 3 hours regarding crypto proper. And thank you to the 7,000 people watching live. May will be good. May the May be with you. Oh, I think tomorrow is May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you. And I know nothing about Star Wars, but I learned that last year. Thank you all. Bye-bye.